Honestly, I'm shocked. Tesla just dropped huge news, and the stock is down 0.25% today. Here it is. Tesla prepares to deploy long-awaited FSD features in China. Tesla is readying a software update for customers in China to offer driver assistance capabilities similar to those marketed as full self-driving in the US, according to a person familiar with the matter. The updated plan for the coming days will allow Tesla owners to use driver assist features on city streets, said the person, who asked not to be identified because the company has yet deployed the software. Tesla plans to tell customers the system will guide vehicles to exit ramps and intersections, and that it can recognize traffic signals, make turns, and handle changing lanes and speeds. The capabilities will be deployed to customers who've paid 74,000 won, $8,800 for what Tesla calls FSD. While the company markets its features as self-driving, they require constant human supervision and frequent interventions. Chief Executive Officer Elon Musk has for years been seeking regulatory approval for Tesla's FSD to be allowed to operate on Chinese roads and has been aiming to launch the system in China this year. Musk said during Tesla's quarterly earnings call last month that the car maker was facing challenges with FSD in China because both Beijing and Washington had placed limits on how the company trains its system to handle local roads. The CEO said engineers were getting around this by looking at videos of streets in China that are available on the internet and using that footage for training. Tesla has drafted language of the software update cautioning that the timing and effectiveness of some features may vary depending on the vehicle model and configuration. The feature for city streets will be introduced on select models and be gradually expanded, the person said. So Tesla is launching FSD in China. This is a very high margin business, 90% margins. And I would argue now that shortly here soon, this will be launched, more people in China are going to buy FSD. That is going to be directly beneficial to Tesla's profitability. And the stock didn't care at all today. I mean, that is crazy to me. I mean, I think it just highlights how bearish a lot of people are right now in Tesla, especially retail investors. Like, no matter what the news is, Tesla stock just doesn't move higher on it. We've had a lot of good news recently that hasn't meant anything for Tesla stock. Now, all of this news recently that has been good is good for Tesla. And inevitably, once the fear dies down, we're going to wake up one day, theoretically, light bulbs are going to go off and say, wow, Tesla's, actually doing the things that they said. That was not just talk. And Tesla stock will rapidly appreciate in value, in my opinion. Lars, the VP of Vehicle Engineering at Tesla, said this on the new, more affordable models they are launching in a few months. He says, quote, "The most difficult part of doing that is not making the cars worse. So I promise that they won't be a massive step down from the cars we sell today." He also said that Tesla is developing a new process so they don't have to paint the Cybercab. Lars says you inject the polyurethane paint at the same time that you make the plastic panels. There's no paint shop with that vehicle. We put the colors in when we make the panels. That's it. If you want to repair it, it's just basically paint. Lars also says in a new interview on the next-gen Roadster and SpaceX package, he said, quote, "Oh, it is definitely real. We're working with SpaceX on that now. Cold gas thrusters are super cool, and they add a certain level of breaking the laws of motors physics. I promise you, the next new Roadster will come out. I last worked on it this past Tuesday." Lars also confirmed that the Model S and the Model X will get upgraded as well this year, kind of like the Model 3 and the Model Y have just been upgraded. And also news over this weekend that apparently is not being digested by markets. Tesla currently opened 6 job openings related to the Cybercab in manufacturing at Giga, Texas. Equipment technician, another equipment technician, one of which for plastics, another which for press, tool and die specialist for the Cybercab plastics, equipment technician for the Cybercab and general assembly, a process engineer for the Cybercab and plastics, an equipment engineer for the Cybercab and plastics. And Tesla says they will be pressing charges for vandalism at superchargers. Quote, "Will be removed by tomorrow morning. Our network will stay in first-class condition for our customers." There has been now a couple of instances of superchargers being vandalized. Some people spraying foam in the adapters, like insulation foam, to essentially render them worthless. And instances like this, Tesla charging seems to be on it and fixing the problems as they arise. New Tesla Model 3 has won the, quote, Best Urban Electric Vehicle under $100,000 award in Australia by Drive Car of the Year. Quote, "The Model 3 is so far ahead of its rivals on value, space, performance, comfort, technology, efficiency, and charging that the note in this category was not a difficult one. The competition will need to seriously up its game if it wants to claim the crown from the Tesla Model 3. Also in the news today that really sent a lot of your, AI software names and data center providers lower was, I guess, Microsoft has begun canceling leases for a substantial amount of data center capacity in the US, totaling a couple of 100 megawatts, but it's not as you would think. Quote, "Microsoft needed to meet demand and had a great deal of difficulty finding capacity. Management may, therefore, have rented, even at a meaningful premium, data centers and GPU capacity and negotiated more deals for additional future capacity than they needed." So basically, Microsoft just went out and said, at any price, give us these GPUs, these data centers, we will rent them. And now they're saying, well, wait, we may not need to pay that premium because we already have a lot of leases and we may be making a bad deal here. So I think it's some renegotiation on Microsoft's part. And it is being reported via Giga Shanghai's new Model Y has exceeded 2,000 daily production capacity. As I write on X, that equals about 184,000 Model Ys per quarter. And also, our big catalyst of this week is Wednesday when NVIDIA reports earnings. Tom Lee shares this post from Dan Ives that says, quote, "We expect another robust performance and a clear beat and raise special this week from NVIDIA. That should calm the nerves of investors as the godfather of AI, Jensen, lays out the massive demand drivers from Blackwell and AI capex fueling this fourth industrial revolution." Tom Lee shares this, tags NVIDIA, and with an arrow up, meaning the stock's going to go higher. Also in the news today, President Trump is speaking with France's Macron at the White House. Trump says he is talking with Macron about trade deals. And markets are increasing their pricing of 2 or more Fed rate cuts. Bets on multiple Fed rate cuts this year are rising as U.S. economic signals weaken. The odds of 2 or more cuts by December are now 63%, up from 62% on Friday and 52% a week ago, per CME's FedWatch tool. Recent softer wholesale prices and disappointing activity data, like the Chicago Fed's Index and Texas Manufacturing Survey, has eased earlier inflation worries that suggest the Fed might pause longer. And here you can see that data that came out this morning. Chicago Fed National Activity Index was expected to get better on a month-over-month basis, going from 0.18%, or 0.18, it's not actually in percents, to 0.21. You actually came in negative at negative 0.03. And then your Dallas Fed Manufacturing Index today was expected to also get better from 14.1 last month to 18. No. You came in at negative 8.3. And that's part of why you're pricing in a greater chance of multiple cuts this year. Also hitting the headlines yet again today for Tesla is this recall of 376,000 vehicles. It is an over-the-air software update that was handled last week. So I don't know why these news agencies feel the need to spread this false info just days after the problem has already been solved. Option activity from hedge funds and institutions continues to remain very positive. You have 197 different trades so far today, totaling $122.32 million with a positive order value of 65%. Not as good as what we had on Friday, so far at least, at 78% positive order value, but 65% is still a very good number, albeit considering the stock is in the red today. Now, I'm expecting here in the next couple of days, once we get a new short interest report, you're going to see a new all-time low for the short position on Tesla. Now, today, you have 102,000 shares that are being sold short, but really over the past couple of weeks, almost every day has been hundreds of thousands of shares being covered on. And the short position is sitting at its lowest you have ever seen before. That's a pretty good sign that big money is actually bullish on Tesla. Couple that with the option activity, and I would say these fears that a lot of retail investors have right now are just misplaced. Trump says today that Putin will accept European peacekeepers. So one step closer to peace in that region. Macron says we are ready to provide security guarantees to Ukraine. And Trump says he thinks the Doge email to federal workers on their weekly duties is great. Now, Google Trends data for Tesla products is actually moving higher now in the United States. Okay, just a little bit. And again, keep in mind, this is not a very great seasonal period for Tesla, but we are moving higher nonetheless. The Cybertruck went from 16 to 17. And this is really looking at the last 2 weeks or so. The Model Y went from 12 to 14, and the Model 3 went from 10 to 11. Model S and Model X have stayed the same at 5 and 4 respectively. If we take a look at worldwide search trend activity, you can also see the new Model Y is gaining a lot more attention, going from 18 to 21, the Model 3 going from 15 to 16, and again, the Model S and X, Model S at 7, Model X at 5, are really unchanged. The Cybertruck has also moved higher from 17 to 18. So despite the negative press you're hearing about Tesla, Google Trends data is starting to ramp in the right direction, which before you buy a product, you Google search about it first. I think that's a fair assumption. Tesla currently running about 4,000 different ads with Google. And if we look at Tesla's total global inventory numbers, they have recently come down from their highs and continuing to fall a bit. The Model Y down to 6,200, suggesting, I think, selling down of inventory, right? And you want to do that with the old Model Ys before you launch the new Model Ys. Tesla did the same thing with the Model 3s. So that looks good to me. Prudent inventory management by management is what I think is going on here. Model 3 at about 3,600 vehicles in total global inventories. Model X at 1,900. Model S at 1,000. And the Cybertruck at about 900. So all looks good here to me. CNN's Fear and Greed Index today is falling again sharply from Friday. Friday, you were at 35. Today, you were at 31. Look at this. You are in the bottom quartile of fear. Pretty soon could be an extreme fear. That is actually contrarian, positive indicator for stocks. Now, keep in mind, as the S&P has been volatile, as Tesla has been volatile, markets have been volatile, different sectors have done better or worse. I think it's important context because the second half of February is the worst 2-week period for markets throughout the entire year since 1928. Like consistently, the second half of February is not a good period for markets. March, things get better. And then April is a really good month for stocks. Like one of the best months of the year, especially the first half of April. So once we get out of this seasonal bearish period, I think you're going to have a lot of people that wake up and say, wow, well, markets actually look like they're in a pretty good place. Obviously, we'll have to see how the economy evolves and how that gets priced into Fed rate cuts and things like that. But I am optimistic that there's a little too much fear out there right now. With that said, percent of stocks trading above their 50-day moving average at 41.76%. Again, 50% of stocks or so, almost 60% of stocks are below their 50-day moving average. It's been bearish, and we know that, and that data just corroborates that. And the amount of bearish investors has also been sky high. You were at 47.3% of investors that were bearish. That was a multi-year high. You dropped to 40.5% last week. Neutral investors rose from 24.3% to 30.3%. And bullish investors only rose a little bit. So bearish investors fell. People just really got more neutral or uncertain on a week-over-week basis. And bullish investors rose by less than 1%. From 28.4% to 29.2%. We do have big earnings still to come this week. Domino's did not have the greatest earnings, which, could be another reason why people are raising their, odds of multiple cuts this year from the Fed. Because again, if Domino's is not doing well, then that's not really a good sign for the economy. But today in after hours, you have Hims and Hers, Riot, Tempest AI, Cleveland Cliffs, Zoom, Diamondback Energy, Coterra, Realty Income, Chegg, and Trip.com. Tomorrow morning, I think Home Depot is a very important one. Again, real estate data has been rough. I'm not super optimistic about Home Depot earnings, but if they, give us a warning, cut guidance, something like that, that's what the markets are going to pay attention to. Planet Fitness, Keurig Dr. Pepper, DigitalOcean, Allit, Cipher Mining, Scotiabank, Krispy Kreme, and others report tomorrow morning. Kava, AMC, Axon, First Solar, Lucid, Instacart, Lemonade, Workday, Zeta, and Intuit report Tuesday and after hours. Wednesday's your big day for earnings. Lowe's in pre-market, Advanced Auto Parts, and others like UWM. But it's in after hours. You have NVIDIA, Snowflake, C3 AI, Salesforce, IONQ. This is really NVIDIA's week. NVIDIA is going to dominate what happens to big tech, and it's going to be the biggest catalyst for the broader markets, for the S&P, for the NASDAQ. Although, I'm pretty confident NVIDIA is going to have a good quarter because your hyperscalers have come out and all raised their CapEx guidance. So there's no reason to expect that NVIDIA would have a bad quarter. Thursday morning, though, you have Vistra Energy, Norwegian Cruise Line, you have TD Bank, and others. Thursday and after hours, SoundHound, Dell, Archer, Rocket Lab, Clover, Duolingo, and Open Door. And then Friday pre-market, you have Fubo. Now, if we look at Tesla stock from a technical basis, we do see some encouraging signs. Like Tesla stock, people bought the dip from the lows today at about $325 per share. Coincidentally, this actually is a pretty important level overall. You could see this was precisely the low that you had on February 11th. You proceeded to bounce from there up to about $367 per share. And again, you had that on February 11th. And just within a couple of days, by February 19th, you had bounced into the higher range of the 300s. But also, this was a big support level back here on November 27th. This was resistance on November 15th, and also served as support here on November 12th, November 13th, and was actually a gap up level on November 11th. So I think there is a lot of significance around this level. And when you get these kind of candles, this is called a hammer candlestick. As long as Tesla moves higher into the end of the day, forms the hammer part. This is a hammer candlestick, which means sellers took over in the beginning of the trading day, but you did end up closing near the high of the day. So as long as we do not give back and sell off towards the low of the day to close out the trading day, then this is a very bullish setup. But we are butting into resistance at the 100-day moving average at $343.16. You want to get a move above that, and that sets you up for a larger move potentially to that 20-day moving average at $367.50. 59 cents per share. But we will talk about that a little bit more in the next video once we know exactly how the end of this day is going to plan out and into after hours trading. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, let me know your thoughts on all of this information down below in the comment section. Why do you think Wall Street is so delusional right now and just not paying attention to the clear and obvious good news that we have gotten almost day after day for Tesla? It's like nothing matters for the stock is kind of the conclusion that a lot on Wall Street are drawing, and I do not agree with that. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.